You ever get advice and you hear it, you even know it's probably right, but something in you still goes, yeah, I'm not doing that. Not because you don't believe it, but because something in you just isn't ready yet. Maybe it feels too hard. Maybe it costs too much. Maybe it means letting go of something you're not ready to let go of. And then later, you look back and think, wow, that might have saved me time, pain, energy. And it's not that the advice was wrong. It just didn't land when you needed it to. And sometimes our ego won't let us hear it. And if you're honest, you probably already know what you need to do. Today, we're talking about the best advice we almost ignored and some of the worst advice we listened to.
Hey, Steffi K, got something to say. Talk that listens, clears the way. Truth on the mic, grounded in change. You sticking with that? Oh yeah, we sticking with that. Laugh it out, talk it through, we ain't looking back.
Some chats ain't easy, but we take it slow. Tough stuff, tackle now, watch us glow.
You sticking with that? Yeah, we sticking with that.
Hey guys, welcome to You Stickin' With That? I'm Steffi K, and today we're talking about advice, but not the kind you scroll past online. I'm talking about the kind that sticks with you, shapes your decisions, or completely throws you off track. Because we're surrounded by it. Friends, family, social media, strangers, and nobody really teaches us how to filter it. When I started thinking about this episode, I realized some of the best advice I've ever gotten, I didn't take right away. Some of it I ignored. Some of it I didn't understand yet. Sometimes I think we don't ask for advice because we don't know what to do. Sometimes we already know. We just want someone to agree with us. And if we don't like the answer, we ask someone else until we hear what we want. We don't always want advice. We want permission. Okay, so I actually made a list of some of the best advice I've ever been given. And as I read through these, I realized I didn't take all of these right away. As I go through these, a lot of them have a stickin' story that goes with them. And a stickin' story is exactly what it sounds like. It's a story that sticks. Some advice comes to us in the form of a light bulb moment. One year, when I was coaching a high school dance team, everything was going right. We were successful, we had traveled, the team was strong, everyone got along. And then, out of nowhere, one parent started making accusations about me. Things that just weren't true. And I don't know if you've ever been accused of something you didn't do, but your first instinct is to fight. I had truth on my side, and I was ready to prove it. It became a win or lose for me, and I was not about to lose. But the whole situation, it consumed me. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was constantly trying to prove I was right. I remember I was visiting my friend Brenna, and I just kept talking it through with her, over and over, trying to figure out what to do. And finally, she looked at me and said, "Steph, you would rather be right than happy." That was my moment, because I realized I had made this whole thing about winning when it was actually costing me everything. So I made the decision to step down for my family, for my health, and the crazy part, almost every parent came back later and apologized. But that wasn't even the point anymore, because the advice stayed with me, and it changed how I handle things to this day. Another piece of advice that stuck with me over the years, there was a point in my marriage where we moved from Nebraska to the Sioux City area for my husband's job. And at the time, we had a 7-month-old baby and a 5- and 6-year-old. I had a successful business. We had good friends, our routine, our life, and we had to leave all of it behind. I remember feeling really negative about the move, like I had already decided it wasn't going to be good. And a family friend, Catherine Absher, said something so simple to me one day. She said, "If you tell yourself you're going to be miserable, you will be. But if you tell yourself you'll be okay, you'll be okay. And something about the way she said it just shifted everything for me. I didn't change my situation. I changed how I was walking into it. And over time, we built a life there too. Friends, connections, community. And by the time we moved back to Nebraska 6 years later, it was actually hard to leave. And it made me think, sometimes it's not the situation that decides how it feels. It's the story we tell ourselves. Our words are so much more powerful than we realize. I heard Steve Harvey say one time on a podcast something like this. I'll paraphrase. If you say, I will always be broke. Yep, well, you said it. I'll never get the job I want. You're probably right. Things never work out for me. Well, if that's what you want, keep saying it. Instead, try saying what you really want. Say, I live in abundance. I am rich in all ways. I have the job I want. I have the perfect job for me. Things always work out for me. Stuff like that. It sounds woo-woo, but if you start saying that every day, you are going to be shocked at how it changes your life. I had a air quotes boss a few years back that taught me no response is still a response. And I think sometimes we feel like we have to react to everything, like we owe people an explanation, but we don't. Not everything deserves your time, your energy, or your peace. He also said, timing is everything. And sometimes it's not that something didn't work. It just didn't happen when it was supposed to. And when it finally does, it will all make sense, which is why some advice doesn't land right away, because timing matters just as much as truth. Another piece of advice that has stuck with me over the years is never measured, never maintained, because the things we don't pay attention to are usually the first things to slip. God doesn't want your fingerprints on His blueprints, but we try anyway. We overthink it, we force it, we try to make it happen our way, and then wonder why it feels so hard. Sometimes the peace comes when you stop trying to fix it. And I've had to learn that one the hard way, because every time I try to take control, I end up making it harder than it needed to be. Has anyone else been there? The next one on my list is, if you have a big dream, don't tell anyone till it's done. I have found that sometimes the things that we're the most passionate about don't make sense to anybody else. And when we let others know, for some reason they want to poo-poo us right away and give us every reason and example of why it can't work. Like this podcast, for example. I didn't tell hardly anybody that I was even doing it until I had the first episode done. And now here we are in week 19 already, and there's no stopping me now. Sometimes the big plans we have and the dreams we have only make sense to us. And because we often listen to our family and friends, I have found it best to put it into action first, before the big announcement. Les Brown said, if you fall down, fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up, which also ties in nicely with fall down 7 times, stand up 8. Do one thing every day to change your day, because sometimes life can start to feel like that movie Groundhog Day. Same routine, same thoughts, same day on repeat. That's how you stay stuck. God gave each one of us a unique gift. It's been said that your gift is what you do best with the least amount of effort. And I do think that's usually how you recognize it. It's the thing that comes natural to you, the thing you don't have to force, the thing other people struggle with, that just flows out of you. And sometimes you don't even realize it's a gift because it feels so normal to you. But here's the part I think we miss. Just because something comes easy doesn't mean it grows on its own. You still have to show up for it. You still have to choose it. You still have to stay with it when it gets hard, or quiet, or doesn't look like you thought it would. And that's where most people walk away, because it stopped feeling easy, and they thought that meant it wasn't for them. But what if the gift was never supposed to stay easy? It was just supposed to start that way. And the truth is, when you love something, you will work for it. You'll stay up for it, you'll fight for it, you'll grow through it. And yeah, it's still work, but it doesn't feel like the kind of work that drains you. It feels like the kind of work that builds you. So maybe your gift isn't just what comes easiest to you. Maybe it's what you're willing to keep showing up for, even after it stops being easy. And that's how you know it's yours. I taught dance for 22 years, and it never felt like a job. I love being able to make a difference. I love being able to use my creativity. I love the people I worked with. And I believe when you are doing what you love, the rest of your life starts to fall into place. And this is something else I've been thinking about. We've all heard, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And I believe that. But what happens when someone doesn't show up for you? When they let you down? They don't call, don't show, don't meet you where you are. What do you do with that? And for me, I don't want to become what hurt me. So instead of shutting down, instead of pulling back, I try to show up for someone else, even more. But hear me, that doesn't mean you ignore what happened. You can still notice, adjust, protect your space, but you don't let someone else's actions change your character. And then I started thinking, what does everyone else say is the best advice ever? I was a little surprised at what I found out. Trust your gut. We all have an internal knowing. It just sometimes requires us to sit in silence to really hear it. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. So why do we keep waiting for them to change? Go where you are celebrated, not tolerated. Then why do we stay where we feel small? Don't make permanent decisions on temporary emotions. And the last one that made the national list for best advice ever is choose someone who chooses you. Some of the best advice in the world is also the most ignored. And here's something else. A lot of advice now comes from the internet. People telling you what to do without knowing your life. Online advice is usually right, just not always right for you. You'll hear, cut people off, protect your peace, walk away. But sometimes you need to stay, work through it, grow through it. And the internet doesn't know the difference. And here's something else. Not all advice is equal. Who it comes from matters, because there's a difference between advice from someone who's lived it and someone just talking about it. And I've had to learn that. Just because someone has a voice doesn't mean they should have influence in your life. So now I ask myself, is this someone I should be taking advice from? I think too many times we listen to the people in the cheap seats, or what I call the cheap seats. It could be friends, family, or even strangers that are looking from the outside in and have everything to say, but they really don't have a clue what's really going on. But somehow we can tend to listen to that, especially if it's a family member. Here's an example. Let's say you break up with your girlfriend and the relationship got heated at the end and words were exchanged. And instead of keeping the conversation between the two of you, you decide to share the story with your brother-in-law, who's full of opinions and going to, of course, share his past experiences from a similar situation and hope that you make any future decisions based on his advice. But his advice is heavily weighted and only one of many, many options. But if that's your go-to, that could be the one opinion you use to make a big life-changing decision. We all have those people, and I'm the first one to say I need to talk it out a lot of times with somebody, but just make sure that your somebody is someone that you can trust, who will either just listen quietly and do their best to give you a non-biased opinion back, or a situation where you can take that opinion with a grain of salt before you make that life-changing decision. Just food for thought. But let's talk about the other side. Nationally, the worst advice list. And these were shocking to me because they're actually things I've considered on the best advice list in the past. So let's see what they got. Fake it till you make it. And I do think there's a version of it that's true. Like having confidence before you feel ready, stepping into something new. But there's a line between growing into something and pretending you already are it. Because when you're faking it, you're not actually building it. You're skipping the work, skipping the growth, skipping the part that makes it real. And eventually, that catches up to you. So why it's on the worst list, it's not that the advice is completely wrong. It's just incomplete. Confidence without foundation doesn't last. The next one, everything happens for a reason. And this is another one. I've said it, I've believed it, and maybe in the long run, there is a reason. But in the moment, that's not what people need to hear, because sometimes something just hurts. And it's confusing. And it's unfair. And it doesn't make sense yet. And trying to force a reason too soon can actually make it worse. It can make people feel like they shouldn't be upset, like they should already understand it. But healing doesn't work like that. So why it's on the worst list? Again, it's not that it's completely wrong. It's just often said at the wrong time. Sometimes you don't need a reason. You just need space to feel it. And I think that's the difference with a lot of advice. It's not always wrong. It's just missing something. Timing, context, or truth that makes it real. And if we're not careful, we repeat advice that sounds good but doesn't actually help. Another one is stay no matter what. As we know, loyalty isn't meant to cost you yourself. For my next stickin' story, you know how they always say opposites attract? I can remember when I was 20 and I was about to get married, it had occurred to me we didn't have a lot of things in common. And I can remember talking to different friends and family members about it. And everybody always said, oh, opposites attract, opposites attract. And that is certainly something that we seem to be told. But when I take time to reflect on that, and I think of how many marriages are like two ships passing in the night where maybe both people work all week, and then on the weekends, they don't even really want to spend time together because they have different interests. Maybe he goes golfing and she's at home with the kids on the weekend or entertaining the neighborhood, or maybe he likes to hunt and go on trips alone. It just seems to me that we were fed a crock of crap. Shouldn't we choose to marry the one that we actually have something in common with, where we actually are best friends with the person we marry and want to spend time with them? It just seems to me like our marriages would be happier and last longer, maybe forever, if we actually enjoyed spending time with the person that we married. Maybe that's something we need to fix. I mean, why do we take two people with nothing in common and expect 80 years to work? Attraction might start something, but alignment sustains it. Why is it that some advice passes right by us, and other things, they stay with us for years and change us? Maybe it's not about how good the advice is. Maybe it's about when we hear it. Maybe we just weren't ready yet. But when we are, we don't forget it. So if something's been sitting with you, something you've heard before but haven't done yet, maybe now you're ready. If this episode made you think of someone, don't keep it to yourself. Pass it on. Follow along on Instagram at You Stickin' With That, and make sure you're subscribed. We're on all major platforms, and new episodes drop every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. I think at the end of the day, we're all just doing the best we can. We were never designed to go through this world by ourselves. We were designed to share it, to team up, to rely on each other. Somehow many of us have forgotten that and lost our way. So if little by little we can reconnect, be there for each other, love each other, we can all start making better decisions that are more empathy-based and more love-based, which will help everything. Let's fix that together, one piece of advice at a time. This is Steffi K. Have an amazing week.